Hey, Curtis.
Hey, Oz.
You got a movie for us this week?
I do. Our movie marriage this week, Oz. We have Gettysburg meets the fugitive meets From Russia with Love plus Zoolander. This week we're watching Captain America: Civil War.
Nice movie marriage.
I originally had the Manchurian Candidate, but I switched it out for Zoolander.
Yeah.
With your was it your brainwashed
Your big
assassin?
Yeah, it took me a second. I'm like, where's he going with Zoolander? I'm like, oh yeah.
Yep.
So, welcome back, listeners and viewers, to another week of Let's Talk About Flicks, the weekly podcast where we take a monthly theme. This month being war movies, and we are covering your film this week, Captain America: Civil War. I'm one of your hosts, Oz.
I am the other host, Curtis.
And before we get rolling too far, we do want to give a shout out to Patreon subscribers, Don S., Aaron A., and Mandy K. Thank you once again for your patronage. We greatly appreciate it.
Toasty.
All right. This movie popped out when people were still like on board with a new Marvel movie coming out all the time.
Yes. The time of this recording, we are in fall of 2023. The MCU, folks, is kind of on its last legs right now.
Yeah, they have ridden this horse into the ground.
It's fallen apart at the seams. I was actually reading something. The trailer for that Echo show came out. Very brutal. So apparently, like, most of the Disney Plus moving forward is going to be kind of its own. It'll be part of the MCU, but it'll be more of like standalone fare,
right? To
try to distance itself,
from the universe.
From the MCU narrative, so that it's just because it's too convoluted now.
It is. It's gotten very and we knew that would happen once they started universe hopping, and dimension hopping. Like where do you go? Like. You knew that it was hard enough keeping track of, otherworldly stuff. How do the Guardians and how does Thor factor in? But when you're like, we got 3 Spider-Men now, and
got too big.
Yeah, and that's they've made. Let's put it this way: Disney made their money back on the Marvel investment.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, this movie with a $250 million budget grossed like $1.1 billion. Like,
and one of the best MCU movies.
Great MCU movie. Yeah, great movie. Really great movie. So, it is your movie this month, this week.
So yes, and I've got quite a plot to unravel.
Yes, you do.
And you've got quite a character list to go through.
So if you needed to run and get a sandwich or something, Curtis, you go right on ahead while I cover the cast here.
Take a nap. Just tell me when you're done.
Yeah, and really, I mean, it's just a big cast, even if I talk about as superheroes. Like, and so you got Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, Captain America. He's leader of the Avengers that are against the regulation we'll be talking about. Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark Iron Man, who is the leader of the Avengers in support of the regulation. Hence the Civil War storyline. You got Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff Black Widow, who is herself. Like, I will play both sides of this story.
Yep.
Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes Winter Soldier. Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson Falcon. Don Cheadle as James Rhodey Rhodes / War Machine. Jeremy Renner makes an appearance as Clint Barton Hawkeye. We are introduced to Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, Black Panther. Paul Bettany shows up as Vision. Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff. Paul Rudd makes an appearance as Scott Lang Ant-Man. In some ways, even kind of steals the show.
He definitely does.
I love
Something flew in me.
I love Paul Rudd so much. We get Sharon Carter showing up, played by Olivia Van Camp. Marissa Tomei is on board. We also meet Peter Parker Spider-Man, played by Tom Holland.
Yep.
Frank Grillo as Crossbones. Martin Freeman shows up as Everett Ross. William Hurt's in the movie. We got Daniel Bruhl as Baron Zemo. It goes on and on and on. Hope Davis, Alfre Woodard,
John Slattery.
Yeah, it's like it's all over the place, and so it's a Marvel movie, and it's a Marvel movie in the height of like everybody wanted to be involved. So you pretty much pull it out and be like, hey, we have a role. Like, to get someone of Alfre Woodard's like caliber to play like a 3-minute part.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm in. Sign me up. So, a lot going on in this movie, and everybody I mentioned that's one thing I'll give the testament to, the powers that be. The Russo brothers have always done a great job of really sharing, because there's so many quote-unquote main characters in this movie, and they balance them all out really well.
I don't know how they
I don't know either.
But
how to check the egos of... you really get the sense that all these actors and actresses enjoy working together. Like, this isn't a Fast and the Furious issue where there's constantly, like, behind-the-scenes beef. And it's like, this just works, and they do such a great job with it. So, all right, I'm going to go get a sandwich now. And
Go mow the lawn.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll still be yapping here.
Yeah. Take her away.
All right, we got a lot of plot to get through for this one, folks, so pardon me. I'll go as quick as I can. We open on a snowfield in 1991. A Hydra operative gets out a red book with a hammer and sickle on it from the safe. The Winter Soldier is pulled out of stasis. A series of hypnotic code words is read to him, and then we immediately see him in the field brutally disabling a car and retrieving 5 blue, as I put them in my notes, mystery science bags.
Fair enough. It's what they turn turtles into ninjas with.
Yes, mystery science bags. Cut to present day Lagos. In incognito, Wanda Maximoff is describing a situation on the ground to Cap, Widow, and Falcon. They're staking out a terrorist hit from someone they know, Brock Rumlow, Crossbones. Handsome man, that is.
Yeah, he's pretty.
Yeah, Frank Grillo, handsome man. Although, once we see him without the mask here, not so pretty, because half of his face was melted. But,
right.
Yeah.
Big ear.
And they're by an infectious disease facility.
It's even labeled with infectious disease facility.
Yes. It's funny, we mentioned this coming right off the heels of World War Z.
Right.
And we ended last week's episode talking about how this movie is set in the same universe. So just as a safeguard, there's infectious disease facilities everywhere.
Yeah, they got to be now, because you never know when Jerry Lane's going to pop in.
When marbled meat Brad Pitt stops by, telling everybody to shoot themselves up with like RSV or something.
Quick, everybody.
So the terrorists break into a facility using a garbage truck as a battering ram. Also the second straight week where we have a garbage
seeing some
truck
similarities here in these war movies.
Cap's team responds in brutal fashion. They are God. If there's one thing the Russo brothers are great at a lot of things, but this like sort of street level
action,
like, melee fighting.
Action
my
fight.
goodness.
Yeah.
Rumlow steals a biological weapon. So Widow then engages him. Brutal fight between the two of them. Then Captain America jumps in. Widow, and then Red Wing, which is Falcon's little like drone.
Yeah, it's his drone.
They eventually get the vial back, so they save whoever from this biological virus. Cap and Rumlow get into a just an all-out fisticuffs here, brutal fight. Rumlow ignites a grenade, thinking he's going to take out Cap with him. Wanda, using her hex powers, basically like telekinetically captures Rumlow in the explosion, contains it around him.
Yeah.
So he's just burning up while he's like levitating. She tries to throw him away using her powers, but doesn't throw him far enough. And this grenade explodes right next to a building, killing over 20 civilians.
To be fair, she didn't see it.
Yeah.
She didn't see that building.
No.
And I guarantee you, because as we're dealing with now with Russia, Ukraine, and and all the other I don't read the news enough to know who's involved in the other war. I know that but it's inevitable. No matter where there's going to be an outbreak, some American's going to die.
Yep.
We're everywhere. Americans we just are everywhere.
Yeah.
You could have 2 speedboats crashing into each other in some lake in France, and I guarantee you one of the people was American.
Yeah, because we're everywhere and we don't care because we're inconsiderate goons.
We're just everywhere. Just stay home. If you can't fly first class, stay home.
No, yeah, if the lesson learned from World War Z, only fly first class. Otherwise, you will end up being overrun by zombies.
You're going to be a statistic.
Or snakes, I guess, for that matter, too.
Yeah, just get off the plane.
Cut to a young Tony, like de-aged Robert Downey Jr., arguing with his parents, the John Slattery version of Dad.
Right.
And Hope Davis, particularly his father. They're leaving for the holidays. They're going to stop by Washington, upsetting Tony. And Tony then says, I love you. Then modern Tony walks in and says, I wish it ended that way. He's presenting at MIT, explaining how he developed a mechanism called BARF, the acronym, that clears traumatic memories.
He's half man, half dog.
He's his own best friend. BARF clears traumatic memories for me.
Yeah. I always feel better after I barf.
Are you the one getting married? No. Get over there.
Do you?
Fine, you're married. Kiss her. Tony goes on to say that he never saw his parents again after that. They died on the way to Washington in a car accident. Backstage, he runs into a grieving mother, the aforementioned Alfre Woodard, for a blink and a miss it cameo. Who tells Stark that he murdered her son in Sokovia. This movie is set after Avengers Age of Ultron. And then she tells him, who's going to avenge my son, Stark? He's dead, and I blame you. This kid was here on like a humanitarian.
Yeah.
You know, just a Greenpeace kind of thing.
Took a semester off to go help the world.
Yeah. We cut to Steve watching the news. King T'Challa's father, he's the king of Wakanda, is blaming the terrorists and the Avengers, calls out Wanda by name. Vision phases into the room wearing normal clothes. I love Vision trying to be normal.
I do too.
And then she's like, what did I tell you? Like, you used the door. He's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, the door was open, so I thought it'd be okay.
Yeah. He announces Stark's arrival, along with the Secretary of State, Thunderbolt Ross, the same Thunderbolt Ross from The Incredible Hulk, played by William Hurt. Ross tells the assembled group of Avengers, which includes Rogers, Vision, Widow, War Machine, Scarlet Witch, Falcon, and Iron Man, that they are owed gratitude, but they are dangerous and that the world does not trust them. He presents the Sokovia Accords, something that the UN put together, and basically they want to put the UN in charge of deploying the Avengers. Big argument ensues.
Yeah.
Some of them are on board with it, some of them are not. Vision basically kind of, because of course he's a robot, and so he's the most logical thinker of all of them, and he tells them, like, our presence, the Avengers' presence, invites challenge, which incites conflict, and therefore would suggest oversight.
Yeah.
Natasha calls out Stark for being uncharacteristically quiet. Roger said it's because Stark's already made up his mind, which, of course, he's not mad at the fact that he gets called out. Stark talks about Alfre Woodard's son and how he died performing service while the Avengers were there kicking butt. Says that they're no better than the bad guys. Rogers disagrees, says we're not perfect, but oversight will corrupt us and restrict us. This movie, by the way, Oz, came out about 8-9 years after one of the most famous Marvel minis in their publication history, Civil War. So this kind of mirrors that storyline in a lot of ways. And
takes it, and launches it more global to fit into with their MCU. Because, of course, this comic storyline, as I know starts out with street level heroes, they blew up a school bus or something.
Yep. They get in over their heads, and one of the villains they're fighting has the power to ignite his own body.
Yeah,
kills over 600 kids.
Yeah,
so
it's a big school bus.
That's
but yeah, he was right by his school. Yeah. But it's that. You can't shoehorn in the Night Thrasher.
Yeah,
into the MCU right now. So it made sense that they kind of retrofit it to fit the Sokovia stuff.
No, I liked what they did, and it would have been too much to do.
Oh yeah,
to do something like that.
Not that wouldn't be a fun standalone film, but you've already made this now. So
We cut to a filthy home in Cleveland, of all places. A car crashes into another outside. The outside man bursts in, ends up tying up the man inside. Turns out the man who crashed the car and who intentionally kind of caused the scene is Baron Zemo, played by Daniel Bruhl. He ties up the man inside, finds the red book, the same red book that we saw in the flashback earlier, and asks about a mission from December 16th, 1991. The same year that we saw that car crash in the beginning of the movie as well. Zemo hangs the man upside down in a bucket of water that is slowly filling up, and the man refuses to talk.
Right.
Just accepting his fate.
He understands the trajectory of sharing what's being asked. Like, it's me dying is far less of an impact of what could happen if I told you.
Yep. We then cut to London, and Peggy Rogers has died. The same Peggy Rogers, or not Peggy Rogers. I put his last
she
name on
becomes Peggy Rogers,
yeah, Peggy
but not
Carter.
yet.
Yes,
Yeah.
Peggy Carter has died, and Steve is a pallbearer. Sharon gives the eulogy and reveals that she is Peggy's niece.
Now, let me... Did Steve need 5 other pallbearers? I really would have got a kick out of watching Steve Rogers carry her casket.
he just has it over his head.
He walks it down on his own. Like, I saw it, and I'm like, those other guys aren't doing any lifting here.
Yeah, I thought about the same thing as well. Like, do we really need the other guys?
Yeah.
He's just got it on one hand. He's spinning it like a pizza.
Exactly. He's delivering cokes as he goes. I'll get you. I'll be right back, hon.
Natasha tells Steve that Tony, Rhodey, and Vision have signed on to the Accords. She's leaning that way. She's leaning towards signing on. Steve just tells her, "I can't sign it." She says, "Well, I'm on my way to Vienna. It's going to get signed by 117 other countries there."
Yeah.
Cut to Vienna. We meet T'Challa. Natasha talks with him as well as T'Chaka. T'Chaka speaks about Wakanda extending their hand, trying to join in global peace. T'Challa notices people yelling and scurrying by a van outside, yells for people to get down. This van explodes, killing several people in the room, including T'Chaka, T'Challa's father.
Yeah.
TV says Winter Soldier did it. They have video of him near the scene. T'Challa tells Natasha, "In my culture, death is not the end. It's a stepping off point." And at this point, I put in my notes, "I'm not crying, you're crying."
Right.
As he's like grieving outside and talking about what death means in their culture. I'm tearing up on my end.
Yeah. It was like, and Romanoff always seems to be around to be like the therapist of the group.
Yeah.
Which has always kind of bothered me, just because that character, when she finally got a standalone movie, it's like, she was always like second fiddle to the guys. Uh-huh. She's always there as like the root, like the house mom. Like, yeah. And it's like,
keep the order.
She sees, she sees T'Challa there. He's got blood all over his collar. How you doing, buddy? Like,
you want me to get you some cookies?
Right. Yeah.
Make you a sandwich.
It's getting real dark. And it's like, I always felt bad for Scarlett Johansson. I don't blame her for fighting back the way she has.
Yeah, I get it. T'Challa's angry. He tells her, "I'm going to kill the Winter Soldier myself." Steve calls Natasha, says he wants to bring in Bucky. Sharon ends up tipping off Steve and Sam as to where Bucky's located at. But tells them her team has orders to shoot him on sight.
Yeah.
And, like, if you get in the way, like, you're going to be considered a criminal. We then cut to Zemo in a hotel room practicing the words from the Red Book. The same words, again, from this book that woke up Winter Soldier, back in the beginning of the movie.
It was really just like a Beck song. Or like Eve 6, just a bunch of nonsense tacked together.
Eve 6. Got 2 turntables and a microphone.
That's right.
Cut to Bucky in Bucharest. He's on the street at like a farmer's market, picks up a newspaper, sees Winter Soldiers on the front. He's like, uh-oh. Cap is in Bucky's apartment going, yes.
I picture Bucky seeing that and then trying to run away the same Bigger and McCracken tried to run away at the end. I gotta go hide.
Skipping around on his feet.
Trying to go hide. They're after me.
Cut to Bucky in the commercial.
Exactly.
keep going.
Although Sebastian Stan would have probably been a little bit more, more welcomed by the females in the commercial than Big Earn was.
When you give a little, you get a whole lot more in return. So I stand by my statement: best movie villain of all time.
Oh yeah, he's way
Big
up
Earn
there.
McCracken. We cut to Cap again in Bucky's apartment in Bucharest, going through his stuff, and I love this scene here. Sam is calmly radioing into Steve's earpiece. German special forces are outside and closing, so we get these like real time updates from Sam.
I love this scene
as Steve is talking with Bucky, who shows up. He recognizes Steve. I saw you in a museum, and Sam is just continuing to count down. Like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I've been made 5 seconds and like breach, and then a grenade just flies it through the window. And Steve bats it away. Oh god, this scene is so great.
Oh yeah. Just how calm Winter Soldier was through the whole thing too.
Yeah. So Steve and Bucky starts fighting these German special forces. Bucky's using his metal arm to like catch and like deflect bullets. And like Steve is looking out for Bucky. Bucky's not exactly doing the same thing for Steve.
No. Steve's also looking out for the German special forces.
Yes.
Like, I just want to stop them. And Bucky's like, I'm just going to throw this guy down all the stairs.
Yes.
And like Steve's like shooting looks at him like, Buck.
Come on, pal.
Jeez, Buck.
Going a little rough on it.
Lighten up, Bucky.
So big hallway stairway fight. Bucky eventually jumps to the next building, and as he's running across the rooftop, he notices a shadow descending on him, and it's not Cap, it's Black Panther eyes.
Yeah.
And it's the first time in the MCU we see Black Panther in full costume and full regalia. And they go in for a fight, and Panther is not holding back. So
no.
He thinks that Bucky killed his father.
Right. Well, we all do up to this point.
Yeah. He's got his claws out. Bucky is barely holding him off. Steve ends up pursues as Sam, he's flying around in his Falcon outfit. He drop kicks a helicopter tail to send it off course.
But remember, the Avengers are totally undangerous. Like, they're safe as kittens.
So Steve, Bucky, and T'Challa end up in this underground tunnel sprinting after each other.
I just love this. Like, watching them, it's like they're running on like the airport conveyor belts.
Yeah.
As like it's just
a good analogy.
They're just like sprinting past these cars.
Yeah, they're easily going probably 30, 40 miles an hour through
it's just so much fun because they're all like top speed, all three of them.
Bucky grabs a guy off a motorcycle and mounts it all in one motion while spinning it 180 degrees around. Panther ends up jumping on Sam and uses him as momentum to knock Bucky off the motorcycle. Steve tackles Panther. War Machine arrives.
Right.
And just looks at Steve and tells him, "Congratulations, Cap, you're a criminal." And they're all arrested.
Yeah. I'll get put in the same paddy wagon.
Throw him in the back, boys.
Right, and this is where Black Panther just takes his helmet off. Like, I want you to know who I am.
Yeah. We cut to back in upstate New York at the Avengers compound. Vision is cooking a dish for Wanda, a Sokovian dish to try to lift her spirits.
Paprikash.
Wanda wishes people define her outside of her powers, and Vision says, I'm not even sure what the stone in my forehead's for. And then Vision ends up stopping Wanda from leaving, so he's kind of there on Stark's orders in a way. Although Vision does say, he tells her, I wish people would see you the way I see you. And I wrote in my notes,
yeah. Whoa.
Hello, robot.
They do have children.
Yeah, eventually, yes.
Somehow.
Yeah, it's comic books. Just don't overthink
it's
it.
MCU After Dark.
After Dark.
Right. Secrets.
Cut back to we're in Germany now in a secure vehicle. Steve and Sam asks T'Challa if his suit is vibranium. He expositions, because again, it's an MCU movie, we've got to get exposition. The Black Panther is Wakanda's protector, a mantle passed down through the generations. T'Challa asks, how long do you think you can protect Bucky from me? At the compound in Germany, Bucky's in an incredibly secure personal transportation vehicle.
Yes.
We meet Everett Ross, a.k.a. my dad, because they're basically the same person.
Yes, they are.
Mm-hmm. Tony and Natasha greet the detained Sam and Steve. Tony says, Ross wants you all prosecuted. Tony brings Steve a pen that FDR had used back in World War II. He tells Steve how he feels guilty for Ultron, Sokovia, Pepper almost dying, which was in Iron Man 3.
Right.
Tony says he hated Steve because his dad always talked about him. Tony says, I can make the last 24 hours go away if you just sign.
Yeah, just do it.
Steve doesn't. Calls him out. Doesn't do it. We then cut back to Everett Ross supervising on a video Zemo engaging in a psyche valve with Bucky. So, we find out later how he got in there. Sharon, of course, lets Sam and Steve listen in. Steve and Sharon speculate Bucky's being set up. We then see a small EMP is set off at an energy substation, which cuts the power to the base. Zemo pulls out the Red Book, Oz.
No!
And he recites the mental conditioning code words as Bucky tries to break out of his restraints, but Zemo is able to finish it. So Winter Soldier's back to being Winter Soldier again.
Yep, ready to comply.
Sam and Steve run in. They find several unconscious soldiers, including Zemo, lying on the ground asking for help. Steve sees right through it, though. Picks up Zemo, and Zemo says, I just want to see an empire fall.
Mm-hmm.
Bucky attacks both of them, knocks out Sam, throws Steve down an elevator shaft. Sam chases Zemo, loses him in a crowd. Tony, without his suit, Sharon, Natasha, and T'Challa attack Winter Soldier, but he gets the best of all of them. Escape, gets in a helicopter. Steve grabs the helicopter leg with one arm, is holding on to like a rail on this tower.
It's like the iconic shot from this movie.
Yes. I am sweating because I'm so turned on at this point. This moment right here. It's Chris Evans at his finest.
Yes, he's all man in this.
Arms
shot.
aren't supposed to look like that, folks.
No, and his unless I read it wrong, his legitimately did. Like, this was not CGI muscles. This was Chris Evans doing the Chris Hemsworth approach to bodybuilding.
Like he's got his arms stretched out, and then he flips one over so you see his bicep.
Yeah.
And it's like Scott Steiner there.
Oh, yeah. Only not as gross.
Oh, yeah. Only not as gross and implanted as Scott Steiner.
Right.
Steve ends up pulling this helicopter down. They end up falling into the river. Steve pulls Bucky out.
Yeah, Bucky reacted like, I can't get away from this, so he cranks the wheel and tries to drop the blades onto.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to kill him.
Yeah. But Steve gets out of the way, of course. But really cool scene right there. Cut to Sam and Steve with Bucky. They've trapped Bucky. They're in some warehouse. And they have this gigantic industrial press.
It's like a vice. Yeah.
Yeah. That they're using to keep Bucky in place. Steve asks him, which Bucky am I talking to? And he says, it's me. Identifies Steve and uses Steve's mother's name. Bucky says, Zemo asked where I was kept in Siberia. There's more Winter Soldiers. I'm not the only one.
Right.
Sam and Steve deduce that Tony's not going to help due to the Accords. Tony, in the meantime, convinces Thunderbolt Ross to let him go after Sam, Steve, and Bucky. Tony and them talk about being understaffed, Tony and Natasha. Tony says, I got an idea. We cut to Queens, where we meet Peter Parker for the first time in the MCU. Not only do we meet T'Challa in this movie, Oz, but we meet Spider-Man, the Marvel hero.
Yes.
Tony's in his apartment. He's there talking and kind of flirting with Aunt May. He kind of winks at Peter. I'm here about that grant you won.
Yeah, he's
right?
staring at him like, you go along, kid.
Uh-huh. ends up getting Peter in his room, calls him out for being a hero, brings up a YouTube video of some kid in a red mask saving people. I love this scene as well. Tony finds the Spider-Man suit, talks about the web fluid, and Peter even says, he doesn't give the typical Spider-Man line, but he gives a version of it. When you do the things I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you. So basically, like a proto version of with great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah. Tony asks Peter to help. He initially refuses. Then Tony threatens to tell Aunt May. And as Tony's about to leave the room, Peter webs Tony's hand to the door and agrees to help.
Yeah.
Great scene.
It really is. And kudos to Tom Holland in his first MCU debut he just fits.
Yeah.
I mean, just instantly fits.
Yeah. I think he was 19 when they did this movie. We get a sequence of Hawkeye arriving and rescuing Wanda from Vision. Back in Europe, we meet Io, one of T'Challa's guards, who does appear in the later Black Panther movies. She tells Natasha, "Move or you will be moved."
Yeah.
One of the Dora Milaje. Sharon meets up with Steve, Sam, and Bucky, and like the tiniest of tiny cars.
Exactly.
She returns their equipment. Bucky's in the back.
I love the chemistry of these two.
Yeah, you want to take the scene?
No, I'll go for it.
So as Steve and Sharon are outside talking, Bucky's in the back seat, Sam's in the front seat. Bucky, can you move your seat up? No. Steve and Sharon kiss, and we cut back to Sam and Bucky. They're both like, yeah.
Yeah, Bucky, who is like slid over to the left to get out from behind him. Like, I love that like bros look of like, you get yours, Steve.
Yeah. So the three of them then pull up in that tiny car to the Leipzig airport parking garage, where they meet up with Clint, Wanda, and Scott Lang, who Clint had also recruited. He was asleep in a van. We then get some classic Paul Rudd here. He gets out, he goes up to Steve Rogers. "I'm shaking your hand too long." "Oh, Captain America, I know you too. You're great. I know you know a lot of super people, so thanks for thanking of me."
Thanks for thanking of me.
Yeah, and you know that was just Paul Rudd.
Oh, like, just Paul Rudding it. Yeah.
Yeah. They hear on a loudspeaker that the airport is being evacuated, so like they're onto him.
Yeah.
So they suit up. Cap kind of runs out solo to a chopper if he's intercepted by Iron Man and War Machine. Steve says, "Hey, that doctor, that psychiatrist back at the base is behind this." Black Panther jumps out, Natasha jumps out, Tony calls for underoos, as Spidey slings in, uses a web line to steal Steve's shield and web his hands all in one motion.
Yeah.
Tony tells Steve, "I'm trying to stop the Avengers from being torn apart." Steve said, "Tony, you did that when you signed the Accords."
Right.
Ant-Man then jumps out from the shield. He was hiding the entire time in the shield. Goes back to regular size, and then one of my favorite parts, the moments in the entire MCU, Ant-Man hands the shield back to Captain America and goes, "I believe this is yours, Captain America."
He's just so like proper.
Yeah, because like he thinks this is what superheroes do.
Yeah, this is what superheroes do.
Yeah, you talk like this.
Yeah.
"I believe this is yours, Captain America." He's talking, like the Super Friends and like the 1970s cartoon.
Yeah, it's like old cartoon language.
Yeah, so like he thinks this is what you do.
Yeah, I used to watch those shows. Yeah. This is what you do.
He's such an idiot.
Oh, I know.
And then, Oz, we get the huge airport fight scene here. Spidey engages Barnes and Wilson. "You have a metal arm? That's awesome."
And he's like, I love how, like, what's the word I'm looking for here? Spider-Man is so unaware that
he's naive.
That he is so unaware and naive that, like, he owns every one of them.
Yeah.
He's just as strong as them all. Like, he is, like, just nonchalantly taking out Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And like, quipping along the way. Like, and it's just so awesome just to see, like, we know what Spider-Man's capable of just throughout the history of Spider-Man. But Spider-Man doesn't know what Spider-Man's capable of. And it's just so cool seeing him, like, 16-year-old kid like besting various superheroes with minimal effort.
Well, and again, they didn't. He's the wild card here.
Yeah,
that's why Tony brought him along, because he's somebody that they wouldn't expect.
Right.
The huge fight ensues. Wanda is like throwing cars at Tony.
Yeah.
Scott embiggens a fuel truck, throws it at War Machine, and it's like, I thought that was a water truck. It was a fuel truck.
Like he felt bad.
Yeah, and it hits War Machine. We see the stair car from Arrested Development. Because the Russos, of course, famously directed several episodes of Arrested Development. That's how they broke into Hollywood. We get the trailer shot of the two sides running at each other. Panther and Winter Soldier are going at each other hard. Bucky says, "I didn't kill your father," and T'Challa goes, "Then why did you run?" At this point, I'm watching with my wife, and she breaks into Tommy Lee Jones from The Fugitive. She goes, "I don't care.
I don't care.
Why did you run? I don't care." Steve tells Peter, "You got heart, kid. Where are you from?" "Queens, Brooklyn."
Yeah.
We get, I forget the number, but we get a straight up shot that's right off the cover of an early Avengers book. It's like Avengers 170 something.
Okay.
Of Clint pulling an arrow back with tiny Ant-Man like basically holding on to the tip of the arrow.
I'm ready, arrow guy.
Yeah. So Ant-Man gets into Iron Man's suit and kind of disables parts of it. Sam and Clint agree, like, some of us are going to have to get caught if Steve and Bucky are going to get to Siberia to stop these other Winter Soldiers. Sam says, "Hey, we need a diversion," to which Ant-Man says, "I got something big. I can't hold it very long. On my signal, run, and if I tear myself apart." I love, like, they cut back to Bucky, and Bucky's just like, what is this guy doing?
Right. Yeah, it's just like, it's like he doesn't belong. Well, and of course, Ant-Man is like sea-level superhero.
Yeah.
You know, that's been elevated to star status with these guys.
And so Ant-Man goes Giant Man.
Yeah.
Turns himself, like 30, 40 feet tall.
Oh, I love Paul Rudd.
There's a fun shot here of Falcon is flying straight at Iron Man, and he shoots Red Wing right into Iron Man's head.
Yeah.
Another just fun moment. Vision flies through Giant Man. Something just flew in me. And eventually, after Iron Man is finally taken down, he pops his mask off. "Does anyone have any orange slices?"
Yeah. That line I always thought was odd. Like, I get it, it's a team effort kind of thing, but it just felt shoehorned in there
a little bit. It still made me laugh.
Oh yeah.
Steve and Bucky escape in Tony's Quinjet as Natasha turns on T'Challa and uses her gauntlet to slow him down, her widow's bite to slow him down. War Machine and Iron Man fly after the Quinjet. Falcon flies after them. Tony gets on the horn, or I forget if it's Tony or Rhodey, gets on the horn of Vision, like, I got a bogey, take him out.
It was Rhodey.
And so Vision takes a shot from several hundred yards away, misses Falcon, and ends up blowing the chest piece off of the arc reactor of Rhodey's suit, and so he's free falling, or as he calls, because he's a pilot, like dead stick. So he's got nothing. Right. And he hits the ground, falls several hundred feet.
Yeah.
Tony ends.
I don't know how he's alive. Like, I know why he's alive, but realistically, it should have been it.
Yeah.
I also don't know how Tony didn't get there. Like you can't fly faster than the fall of gravity. Like, I get why Sam didn't get there, but I'm like, Tony, you could have got there. I've seen you fly faster.
So we see Zemo arriving in Siberia. We see the Quinjet flying in Russia. Bucky tells Steve, like, I don't know if I'm worth all the effort. Tony and Vision are watching Rhodey go through an MRI machine. Tony tells Natasha that Rhodey's likely paralyzed and that Thunderbolt Ross is going to come for her because she helped Steve and Bucky escape.
Right.
They get the news feed of a dead body being found in a German hotel. And so, everybody's now on board.
Story checks out.
Yep. it turns out Zemo took out the psychiatrist who was supposed to go interrogate Barnes, and
he punked him. You've been punked.
Yep. Ashton Kutcher shows up.
Right. Totally got him.
Yeah, and he impersonated Barnes and found like facial prosthetics approximating Barnes. So we're clearly in Act 3 here, Oz, where everybody's closing in on Siberia. Zemo arrives to the base. We find 5 super soldiers in stasis. Tony takes a chopper to the Raft prison, which is literally a prison in the middle of a sea. Ross gives Tony the 3rd degree. Clint is mocking Tony from his cell. Clint says we're criminals, Tony, because Tony's kind of treating them like friends, we are criminals, you don't get it. Thanks to Tony, the Accords. Tony tells Sam he was wrong about Barnes, but Sam ends up telling Tony where they were going.
Yeah, cut the audio.
Yeah, so that the others, including Ross, couldn't hear. So Tony goes after him alone in his Iron Man suit, and T'Challa, cloaked, follows Tony. So Steve and Bucky get to the Siberian base. They enter. They hear a sound behind them. It's Tony. He says, "Hey, I believe you now." Thunderbolt Ross doesn't know I'm here. They find those 5 super soldiers dead. So it turns out Zemo wasn't after those super soldiers at all. That's not what he was after. Panther sneaks in as Steve expositions that you killed innocent people in... talking to Zemo, you killed innocent people in Vienna, including T'Chaka, just to bring us here. So T'Challa now knows that Winter Soldier wasn't responsible.
Right.
Zemo reveals he's Sokovian. I lost everyone. An empire toppled by its enemies can rise again, but one which crumbles from within, that's dead forever. So that's his plot here, is to turn the Avengers against each other.
I'm so glad Zemo is a genius.
Uh-huh.
Because there's so many dominoes that had to fall into place.
Yes.
But it's a movie.
Uh-huh. It's a comic book movie. Zemo then plays a video on the monitor. Tony recognizes the road. We see the car crash from before. Winter Soldier pulls up, and it's Stark's parents.
Yeah.
He brutally kills Howard, chokes out Maria to death. This hits hard.
Yeah.
Tony asks Steve if he knew about Bucky killing Tony's parents, and he says yes. Tony then goes after Steve and Bucky, just no hesitation at all, and a huge fight between them. Bucky disables a hand repulsor. Steve knocks out one of Tony's jet boots. Steve says this isn't going to change what happened, and Tony says, I don't care, he killed my mom.
Right.
So huge fight amongst all of them. We get a comic book cover shot from the Civil War comic of Steve holding up the shield against Tony's repulsor. Panther confronts Zemo outside as Zemo's listening to a voicemail from his dead wife. He prevents Zemo from killing himself so that he can stand justice. Back to Steve and Tony. Tony uses a chest repulsor and blows off Bucky's arm, so he's down for the count. Friday analyzes Steve's fight patterns to turn the table against him. Tony takes Steve down. Of course, we get the classic Captain America standing up. I can do this all day.
Right.
Steve ends up knocking Tony's helmet off. And you think for just a moment Steve is going to drive his shield into Tony's head, but instead he buries it into the chest to disable the armor.
Right.
Oof.
Yeah.
Really tense fight scene. We see Zemo. We kind of get some epilogue stuff here. Zemo is in a similar restraint that Bucky was in under the charge of Everett Ross. Tony pulls up to Avengers HQ. Rhodey's got cybernetic legs. Stan Lee delivers a FedEx package for Tony Stank.
Yeah, Tony Stank.
Fun little phony, or a little moment at the end. That package actually had a burner phone from Steve and a letter from Steve. Saying that, I apologize for not telling you about my parents. If you ever need me, use this phone. Mid-credits, Bucky and Steve are in Wakanda, helping Bucky recover. Post-credits, Peter and May. Peter has a black eye from a guy named Steve. He has a friend who is huge, and he has a new wrist gauntlet that Stark gave him. And that, folks, whew, is Captain America Civil War. Oh, man. I'm going to go rehydrate.
Yeah.
Get some Gatorade in me. Oh. At this point in the show, folks, Oz and I give our own unique rating about the film in question, Captain America Civil War. Oz, how would you rate this flick?
10. Just a 10. Like,
Just
it deserves a number.
Just
It
a real
was
10.
a great movie.
Yeah, it is a great movie.
What are you giving it?
I'm giving it a bag of orange slices.
Oh, that'll work.
Yep. Full bag of orange slices. Next up, we got Outside Insights. Oz and I have been scouring the interwebs, searching for unprofessional reviews that tickle our funny bones. We hope they tickle yours as well. Oz, what is your Outside Insight?
I've got 2 short ones. Three
right.
and 3.5 stars by Alba. Probably Jessica.
Hey, who else would it be?
And Alba says, when your boyfriend did some bad things while he was brainwashed by a Nazi organization, so now you're fighting your friends in a parking lot. 3.5 stars.
You could ship Bucky
Yeah.
and Steve together.
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah.
make a good couple.
And Leah Allison drops a 2.5-star review and says, feel like this could have been resolved if their moms had the same name. Hey, it stopped Batman and Superman from fighting.
Why did you say that name?
So that's what they should have if they had the same names. So
Yeah, Mom should have been named Martha.
Stanley dropped the ball. So what do you got?
My Outside Insight comes from, of course, the Internet Movie Database. That's a 1 out of 10 review. This movie's entire marketing campaign is exactly the same as WWE Survivor Series, asking the viewers if they're hashtag Team Cap or hashtag Team Iron Man. How about hashtag Team Neither? Well, the movie doesn't disappoint if you were expecting WWE superheroes. This movie was a massive insult to my intelligence. It was one big contradiction after another that I was enraged by the end. Enraged.
Yeah, this should have played out more like Survivor Series.
Where it was Roman Reigns.
Everybody stands back and lets a one-on-one fight happen until they're pinned, and then the next person's in. I did love me some Survivor Series though.
Oh, OG Survivor Series was fun. I think
way better.
That's where Undertaker review. I think he debuted. Also,
I had talked my dad into buying that pay-per-view, so I watched that Survivor Series pay-per-view with the gobbledygooker and the debut of the Undertaker, and it was pure bliss.
The gobbledygooker. I remember how much the WWF hyped that up.
Oh, and then it just nothing.
It was a guy in a chicken suit.
Yeah, it's just nothing.
But the Undertaker.
The Undertaker. He stuck around a while.
One of my favorites of all time.
Yeah.
Undertaker, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those technician guys were always good.
Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero was another one.
Mm-hmm.
Berserker.
The great technician, the Berserker.
Yeah. Anything Mr. Fuji could manage, I was a fan of.
Warlord.
I do think, though, like, my favorite 2 tag teams, despite the fact that the Hart Foundation was amazing, I really enjoyed the Rockers and Demolition.
Demolition was fun.
I know that Legion of Doom was way better, but I was a Demolition guy.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I love me some Demolition as well. All right, well, hey folks, it's that point in the show you've all been waiting for, our signature segment, the 3-2-1, where Oz and I each share 3 goods, 2 bads, and 1 about the film in question, 2016's Captain America: Civil War. Oz, what are your 3 goods?
My first one is like the quote-unquote real-world issues the Avengers faced.
Sure.
Like government oversight and, it feels, even though it's clearly not real, like it feels more grounded than what the DC offers. And so I really enjoy it. And I think you would be able to speak on it more than I would, but that really is one of the big things that sets Marvel apart from the DC universe. And even in the comics, was just they're grounded in reality.
Yeah.
My second is, and we mentioned it before, we kind of, got gaga over it before, the Bucky exiting the building scene. From Steve showing up to Rhodey apprehending them.
Yeah.
Just so much action and so well done.
Yeah.
I love how Steve got behind and so commandeered a car just to try to catch up. And then when he wrecked that, it starts to roll and he just runs out of the driver's side. It's just so good. And third, there's a lot of humor in this movie, but it's really well balanced. and it doesn't feel like this is now a comedy.
Yeah.
Which really helps because there's a lot of serious stuff going on in this movie. And a little bit of levity was nice.
I believe this is yours, Captain America.
Right. So, what are your three goods?
Oh, my three. I'm going to go with the opening fight scene in Lagos. Again, just very
good.
Yeah, melee heavy. It's Widow, it's Falcon. Wanda's there, but she's not doing a whole lot until the end. Steve, Rumlow. Just you jump right in with a classic Russo brothers fight scene. So right there, first and foremost. My second good is going to be we'll go with Peter and Tony, just in Peter's apartment. That whole sequence is great. Again, I love how, because again, this is your third Spider-Man in 10 years,
right? And
they intentionally don't give you the backstory. He's been Spider-Man for a couple of months now.
Yeah,
you get some bare bones hints about kind of how he became. But it's really more about how it's affecting him in the present. And
I like that turn.
And how he's making sense of being a hero and the responsibility that comes with that. And again, he gives his quote without giving his quote about how much it means to him. Like I could play football, but I couldn't then, so I shouldn't now. And he's got you get that sense of the classic Peter Parker guilty conscience,
right? So
they really do a great job of capturing that character. And let's go for the last one. The Alt J song "Left Hand Free."
Yeah,
it's a great song. I think it's playing when we meet Peter as he's arriving home, and then they play it again over the end credits.
Over the end credits.
Yeah. So great song. Hey Oz, what are your two bads?
My first one is the crazy speed the Sokovia Accords came together.
Yes.
Governments don't move that fast,
no.
Let alone 117 governments. So that's my first bad. Is I get it for plot device, you got to move things along, but I'm like this, and then. Like 117 nations agreed to this, and the Avengers were surprised. Like it came out of left field. Like no, this would have been all over the news.
Yeah.
My second one, and I mentioned it earlier. I just always wish they'd have given Black Widow a little bit more to do than just follow men around.
Yeah.
Like you've got really one other female in here, Wanda, and at least she's a plot point. With her powers, but it's like. We bring Wanda in and we keep her around, and she's very much a worthy character. And then we just, between her and Hawkeye, they just kind of get squirreled away. And so I always kind of felt bad for Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
Because she holds her own in every scene she's in the MCU, but she's just always overshadowed.
Well, and she's the one that makes sure that things get done.
Yeah, exactly.
You're bickering? Okay, we got a job to do.
Yeah, let's get to it and get around it. And so those are my two bads. What do you got?
Oh, my first bad, you mentioned it earlier, just the incredibly convoluted plot by Zemo. Like, there's a lot of moving parts here, and there's a lot of things that got to fall just the right way, and they just happen to do so.
At the right time.
Yeah, in order to get them all together so he could play the video in Siberia. He could have just, mailed him a VHS.
Yeah. Yeah.
But nope, he had to get him in the middle of Siberia to show
Upload
him
it to YouTube.
Yeah.
It's present. I mean, that's where Tony found Spider-Man footage.
Go on a local UHF station at 4 in the morning.
Exactly.
Let Public broadcasting.
Wayne and Garth cover
it. So that's the first one. My second one... even though I can't remember if this was Disney yet, if Disney had just bought them or what, but we get a dead parent motivation for Black Panther.
Yeah, Disney had bought Marvel a long time before this,
but so. I guess it was now is where it was really becoming more of a thing. I guess it's becoming more public about it, and Disney was branding it.
They bought they bought in 2009.
Okay.
So Disney had owned Marvel for 7 years when this movie came out.
But it's just another sort of dead parent motivating the hero.
Got to bring him in. Got to have a dead parent. Got a lot of dead parents in this one.
Yep. Steve's are mentioned. Tony's,
we see him die. We see T'Challa's die.
Yep. Dead parent motivation. Yep. So hey Oz, what's your huh?
Where was the TSA?
They made it into that parking garage just fine.
Yeah. Like, where? I mean, somebody had to evacuate the airport and probably stick around. But yep, TSA nowhere to be found.
They got that little blue car in there, plus that big van that Ant-Man was sleeping in.
Yeah, that's what they're for. No TSA. I would like to see them get involved. But to each their own. What about you? What's your
maybe it happened during the government shutdown and the TSA was striking that day.
Probably it. Yeah. Airports were still open. just anarchy. So, what about you? What's your...
Mine is, we see the stair car from Arrested Development make a nice cameo.
Yeah.
Why was there no crossover with the Bluth family?
That would have been nice.
MCU meets the Bluths.
I'd like to see, like, Dr. Tobias Funke and Vision sit down and pick each other's brains.
Yeah, he's psychoanalyzing Vision.
Yeah. I think Job and Tony would have hit it off.
Yeah. Hawkeye and Lindsay are dancing in a cage.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
and then Lucille comes in to be the mom they all need.
Yeah, and George Senior's in prison on the raft.
Yeah, that would have been a perfect time to put him in there. Let him be a prisoner on the raft
while he's trying to tweak Jane Lynch.
Yeah, that would have been perfect. Oh, the Russos dropped the ball. All we get's a stair car.
All we get's the stair car. Had such an opportunity there.
Yeah, they dropped it. Oh, well.
That was Captain America Civil War.
Yeah, Captain America Civil War. We are 3 weeks done with November already. Man. So we've got 2 more to go. We each have one, and I've got next week's pick.
You got the next week. What is it, Oz?
We are going to we're going to take another type of war between 2 factions.
Yes.
Well, multiple factions, and we only on a little smaller scale. We're going to hit a different area of New York than Queens and Brooklyn. We're going to go to Staten Island as we cover the 70s, late 70s. Oh, I love this movie so much. Yeah. We're going to cover the Warriors. The Warriors, the street gang that is supposedly responsible for the death of Cyrus.
Can you dig it?
So, such a great movie. Cult classic if there ever was one.
Yes.
And we're going to be back next week cover the Warriors because there is the consecutive letters WAR in the movie.
It's in the name.
So the Warriors are what we're going to cover next week. Social media-wise, you know where to find us: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Patreon link down below. Like and subscribe to all the things you're supposed to do. And it is November, so we've gotten through October and the Halloween month. So if you're looking for something else to watch that's not a Hallmark Christmas movie, you can catch what we're watching and listen to us cover it. I did watch a Hallmark Christmas movie yesterday by choice.
Yeah? What was it?
Christmas by Starlight.
Was it Hallmark or was it?
It was Hallmark. It was come out a couple of years ago. It wasn't bad. Like, I just found that where I want something on that I'm not really paying a whole lot of attention to, safe for the kids to be around, and it just started 3 minutes before I hit it. Because I was clicking through the channels and every movie that was on was half over or not appropriate for the kids. And then I'm like, let's see what Hallmark's got on. Let's just humor it. Sat and watched the whole thing. So it wasn't bad. Even my wife was like, it fit the formula of every one of them. I mean,
well, was there a big winter festival or something?
Yeah,
like the gingerbread festival or?
There was a toy store, and they were throwing a fundraiser. In this one.
So that was what brought the community together.
What really brought our protagonist together was his dad owns a $1 billion corporation that builds high rises, and we're in Chicago, and she is a lawyer whose parents run a local diner that is going to be demolished and taken over.
Oh, no.
Well, he's very Billy Madison about it in that I'm not cut out to lead a corporation. So Dad is like, we're going to hire a lawyer to basically follow you around and make sure you're doing your job. Well, then he and her, she's a lawyer, but not for this, and he hires her. I tell you what, you work for me until Christmas, which is like a week away. You work for me until Christmas, and I'll make sure that your parents' diner is not destroyed. So they butt heads until they fall in love, and it fits every beat of the recipe it's supposed to.
Checks every box.
Every box. Like, my daughter was watching. She's like, this is so stupid. I'm like, just wait. She's like, who's that guy? I'm like, just wait. The next scene will meet the girl who he's not going to get along with. And then, like, boom. Instantly, there she is. And I was, like, calling every scene along the way. And but it was like...
People like that predictability.
Oh, it did. It just really fit and was comfortable. And it was like, this is like what I was looking for right now. Mm-hmm. Just nothing's going to offend you. You're going to feel good about the end. And you're going to go on with your day. So that's what it was. Even my wife's like, I see what you're doing. I'm like, no, I have nothing else to watch right now.
Then the corporation knocks down the diner with the parents in it.
Well, we get that last second, where the dad is going to do it anyway. She's like, you promised. So he pulls some strings and saves the day.
But I want to get richer.
Right. So, and it worked out and they fell in love. But, whatever. And then, I figured I watched Captain America Civil War that morning. So this was the...
palate cleanser.
Exactly. The other side of it. But no, we'll be back next week with the feel-good story, The Warriors.
Feel-good story.
I love all the other gangs in this movie.
Oh,
just
the baseball furies.
Yeah, just the creativity of thinking like every city block in New York has its own separate gang with their own separate gimmick.
With their thing,
they all have a gimmick, and they all have like embroidered vests and they just went all out.
There's got to be big money in embroidery.
Big money in 70s gang embroidery. I feel like they had to go that route because like today they'd all have websites.
Yeah, there's a lot of branding that goes into street gang.
Yeah, big time. And you just stay on your turf. So, but we'll be back next week to cover the Warriors, and that wraps up week 3 of November of war movies.
Movie, which has nothing to do with movies about war.
We're almost done with a whole nother year. So.
I know, right? We're creeping up.
Yeah, I'm glad we got 2024 plotted out. We just got to fill in some blanks. But, ladies and gentlemen, for another week of Let's Talk About Flicks, I'm Oz.
I'm Curtis.
And we'll see you next week with The Warriors.